Hey village. Hi. It's been a bit. Whew, take a breath because it has been a time. I'm sure in future episodes I will definitely share why it's been a time. I haven't been on the mic in a while, dropping new episodes. I guess I'm like, is it like Beyonce? Like where, she randomly drops albums? Maybe that's who I am. It's like the Beyonce of podcasts, maybe without the rhythm and the voice, but y'all get it. I'm your host, Chioko Juliet Grievous. And I just thought that I would do a solo episode today just to check in and share a little bit. I'm back in school, it's a new semester. I am heading towards dissertation, and I can't wait to share more about that with y'all as I get going. Um, and I look forward to sharing with friends along the way in future episodes and gathering all of that for y'all. So I'm really, really happy that you're here. Usually, I will ask what book someone is reading, and I'm reading a lot of things. And before I stepped in to this space, I put down the book that I'm currently reading, like as of today, because I think I have about three books that I am reading at once. And the book that I'm reading today is called Mindfulness by Ron Purser, I believe. And the book is about the capitalism um, surrounding mindfulness practices and how folks here in the West have taken, something that is a part of Buddhist practice to market it to folks who are looking for a way to make more money or be successful. And so there's this idea or quote unquote science, maybe pseudoscience, I'm still reading, about how mindfulness changes the mind so that you can be more productive and more present. But what we know about Buddhism is that that's not all there is. Um, Exploring mindfulness and Buddhist practices is about recognizing that there is trouble around us. And, you know, if you're trying to be more productive in a system without recognizing the system, then that's not what true mindfulness is. Um, I just find it very, very fascinating that there are these people who market mindfulness without wanting to mention its roots in Buddhism, and the fact that mindfulness is not strictly Buddhism, but it's a element of it, and to completely wash that away um, for the sake of money and the selling of classes, because to mention Buddhist or Buddhism, it's not marketable, right, to the folks here in the West. So it's very, very fascinating book. I'm enjoying it. It's not one of those reads that you're just like, I can't put this down. But for me, I can't put it down. So It's not, what I mean to say is it's not a fiction book like suspense and lust and murder and drama. It is truly a book about what's happening in our systems. So yeah. um and I'm reading this every day, like a 365 introspections for emotional healing, and it's just like every day I turn the page and it's the date and it has a message. And so it's called Ancestors Said. And today is January 28th. And what I received today was, you hold a lot of pain from people who will never apologize. One day you'll be able to release the sorrow from your bones forever. So I get to wake up and read something like that to usually start my day. So, okay. This episode, I am hoping to take a breath with you, take a breath with myself. I started the episode by taking a breath because there's a lot going on in the world. It would be very surface of me to just say, yeah, there's a lot going on, and you know, the world around us feels like it's crumbling. I just don't always have the words, I think, to express how harmful things feel, um, how heavy, devastating, sick um, things seem to be, or they are. Um, I just keep relying on this idea of, or this feeling that everything is impermanent, even this. And I am experiencing this, you know, or I'm sitting, experiencing, uh, talking about faith in this way of, you know, faith meaning for me that I'm having faith that things will not be permanent. Um, I don't know when it's going to end. I don't know when this is going to shift, but I really believe that it will. Um, I have a kiddo that is getting ready to start adulthood, and my prayer and my hope is that he's able to start it and it not feel like this, um, because it's sick, right? What's happening. So, taking a breath before we begin, um, and taking the breath to not perform this idea of calm. But even for me right now, I'm like, ooh, child, it's a lot, right? So, if you are listening to this episode that is new, and you haven't heard me in a while, but if you're listening while you're sitting around or you're driving or working, hey, bro, my brother listens when he works, or you're washing dishes, or, you're just in a space where you're zoning out and you're listening to a podcast, I really want you to know that this episode is an invitation from me to you, and it's not a demand. Like, you don't have to do anything, right? So, all this to say that I am having this podcast episode, to talk about the book that I have released. It has came out, and it's called the Soul Story Journal. It's a guide to unbinding the spirit. But I want to talk about why it exists and what it's meant to hold, and how it's less about writing something new, but it's more about remembering something that sits within you, has been within you, and that's true within you. So the journal itself did not come from a productivity gap, right? And it didn't come from a quote unquote, how do I fix myself place. It came from me, sitting with myself. I have been journaling, keeping a diary since I was very young. I think my earliest memories of having a diary was like, I probably was about 7, and it was a blue diary, and it had like balloons and hearts on it, and it had like a little lock that never stayed locked. And I believe that my family read my entries, which I think that's wild. But I do remember keeping a diary from very early. But it's come from years of keeping a diary and journal, but also like how I've used the journal to be reflective and thoughtful of myself and others, and share my own experiences with myself. And um, it's just been a great form of release. So it came from my own work, and it's come from sitting with people, and um, people like my therapy kin. Those are the folks that I see in therapy. It's come from working with students when I supervise them and their journey of being um, therapists and community members, and when Jess and I organized the Black Women's Health and Wellness Conference. And so all of those things collectively have um, been this anchor in this work, in writing this journal. And with that, when I have met with people and sat with myself, we've all been very exhausted from telling stories in rooms with people who did not know how to listen and who would refuse to listen. And so many of us have been taught to narrate our lives in ways that are palatable, legible, or even clinically acceptable, but that's not necessarily liberatory. The Soul Story Journal was born out of a question that I kept asking myself and my therapy kin, which was, what happens when we tell our stories without needing to explain, justify, or translate them? This journal is not about this idea of healing through the aesthetic. It's not about, I have my good vibes. I'm doing it for the vibe of it. It's about truth telling that is tender to your spirit, and it's reflection that is not violent. When I say soul, I'm not talking about something that is abstract or unreachable. I'm truly talking about the part of you that existed before needing to cope. I'm talking about the part of you that knew rhythm before your responsibilities. I'm talking about the part of you that still remembers who you were before survival became your personality. a soul story is not something that's linear. It doesn't follow the rules of beginning, middle, and end. A soul story always circles back. In a soul story, it pauses because pauses are a part of a journey. Sometimes your soul story can contradict itself, and that's okay. And it holds grief and gratitude at the same time. It coexists, and that's okay too. I wrote the journal with the design that it can honor all of that. The Soul Story journal, it moves through 7 sections, um, but they're not steps. I consider them to be like doorways or pathways into something. So it starts off with a soul check-in. So not how are you, but it is where am I today, really? Like in all sincerity, this genuineness. Um, then we go into rhythm of reflection. So noticing the patterns within ourselves without pathologizing them. So not when I say pathologize, it means not like saying, oh, that's depression. Oh, that's anxiety. We're just noticing the pattern. Then we go into groove and gratitude, which is, music is a huge part of me, and it's been a huge part of my family. And my earliest memories are surrounded by music. I can hear a song from like 1987 and I can say, I remember what I was doing, or I remember hearing that song for the first time. The other day, I heard the Whispers Rock Steady. This is just a short like deviation. I heard the Whispers Rock Steady, and I remember being in my mom's red 1988 Ford Festiva. They were not Fiestas then, they were Festivas. And it was a little hatchback car. And I remember riding in the back seat, and my grandmother was in the front, and my mom was driving. And the Whispers Rocksteady came on. And we were going to West Sacramento to see a cousin who was in my grandmother's age group. It's um her first cousin. It was her first cousin. And I remember hearing that song in the back seat, and it was summertime because there was no air conditioning and the windows were down. It was a two door, so it was two windows. And my grandmother loved the Whispers because she had a crush on Scotty, which I never could understand how she knew which one she had a crush on because they both looked alike because they're identical twins. And so a lot of my early memories come from music. So the chapter of Groove and Gratitude is talking about, music, but also not forcing this idea of gratitude, but having this honest knowing of, um, what is going on, and this idea of joy, and um, how joy is tethered to something, and not just happiness, right? So then there's breathe and bless, which is slowing the body and not just the mind. So that's another chapter. And then we go into reconnection, which is reconnecting to the self, to others, to what's been abandoned within you, maybe. We go into a chapter of healing. Now, I get it. You're not going to be healed in a chapter, and nor do I act like that's what's happening. But this idea of healing, and healing without urgency and without timelines. I think when we are so pent up with fear and, trauma, um, we want to heal very, very quickly. And the truth of the matter is that your healing is not a 30-minute episode. It is something that is going to take time, but it's so important just to step into it, to start the journey of it if you choose to, right? So, healing without urgency, without timelines. And then it goes into ancestral memory. And that's because your story did not start with you. So even though we believe that it does sometimes, it didn't. So I don't mean to be the bearer of bad news or the good news. Yes, I do want to be the bearer of good news. But ancestral memory is recognizing that um, your story started way before you. So each section of the Soul Story Journal invites you to write, but also it gives you the space to pause, hopefully, to feel, to take those breaths like we did at the beginning of this episode, and to also remember you are allowed to use this in the way that you want. It doesn't go from chapters 1 through, 7. You are perfectly allowed to skip sections. You are allowed to come back months later, a year later, years later, if you wanted to. And you are allowed to write one sentence and close it. It's yours, and it's your journey. I really wanted to create a space where there is no failing this. You cannot fall behind this. This is your work. This journal is for certain people, and I will tell you who it's for and who it's not for. So I just want to be clear. I am a Black woman in the United States. That is just one intersectionality that I have. And so I wrote this book from this perspective of who I am, Chiogo Juliet, the Black woman, and the Black woman who has lived here and who has had experiences in this country where I'm at in my life, who is around me, my family, right? If you are not a Black woman, and I have other people who like have read this, who are not Black women, they have connected with it in some way, right? Like talking about checking in with themselves and breathing and how they need to heal themselves, and um, someone who was not a Black woman, who was a white woman, looked at the ancestral memory and was just like, oh shit, this would be very, very painful for me. And I'm like, girl, yeah, probably, right? So that is who wrote the journal, is Chiogo Juliet, the Black woman. That is who this journal is for. That's who I have it in mind. That's who I believe I connect with, or who will read it and be like, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Right. But if there are, prompts in here and the stories in here that connect with you, then girl, please have at it. Right. Um, Also, I do appreciate that there have been people, and my classmates in particular, because um, some of them saw it too, and that's what I received. That was some of the feedback, and also they were saying that they can hear me through it, and I feel like that was one of the sweetest and most endearing compliments, because that's what I intended, is for you to hear me. And maybe some of y'all don't know me personally, but if you don't, then I'm hoping that you hear my heart through it. Um, so I will say this next. I just wanted to preface what I'm going to say next. So this journal is also for people who have felt like they have needed to be strong for a very long time, and from a very early age, maybe. people who has had bodies that have learned survival before language, people navigating grief and transition and maybe some unraveling, but it's been quiet. People who want reflection without self erasure. The journal is not designed to fix yourself. I don't have the quick fixes. I am a therapist, and therapists are not known to be fixers. So don't come and get the book thinking, like, aha, I did 7 chapters, fixed. If you tell me that, I am going to, like, respectfully roll my eyes so hard that I'll probably land in a new dimension. Um, this journal is not for optimizing um, performance. It's not optimizing your insight for anyone else besides yourself. You don't need to be a writer. You don't need to be spiritual in any prescribed way. And you don't need to know what you're doing. You only need your own permission. And I really, really hope that the journal gives you that. So, oh, that is my calendar, if you heard that. I I would like to just kind of offer this quick second, to, take a couple of deep breaths really quick because I said a lot. And just place one hand somewhere that feels neutral or comforting. It can be your chest, it could be your shoulder, it can be your foot, it could be your thigh, it could be your lower back. Hell, it could be the desk in front of you, or if you're washing dishes, you're putting it on the sink. Just place your hand somewhere that feels neutral to you and ask yourself quietly. You can speak it aloud quietly, like in a whisper, or you can say it in your head. But I would ask myself quietly right now, is what part of me has been waiting to be witnessed, not worked on? What part of me has been waiting to be witnessed, not worked on? You don't need to answer right now. I'm just encouraging you to notice what arrives. In this question, and questions that are like this, they live inside the pages of this journal. So just sit with what's coming up for you right now. As a therapist, I'm deeply aware of how often reflection tools replicate harm, how reflection tools rush insight, to be in a hurry to figure it out. I also am aware how reflection tools reward coherence over your own truth. The Soul Story Journal is intentionally non extractive. It does not demand resolution. It does not ask you to make meaning before you're ready to. This is reflection that does not surveil you. This is healing that does not hurry you. And it's just a step in the healing process. So, the feedback that I've received is that some people use this journal the first thing in the morning when their thoughts are fresh, or at the end of the week. Someone told me that they're taking it to therapy, which I thought was great. And sometimes you can use this when there are transitions that you don't have the language for, Or maybe you're experiencing an immense amount of joy and you want to write about it and find that section about being gracious and having gratitude. And then also, this can be a journal that you use as you are navigating grief. There really isn't a correct cadence here. And you can write with a pen or a pencil. Maybe you don't even want to write in it. You can respond with words and drawings or lists or word bubbles. I would think that it is perfectly fine and beautiful for you to sit with a prompt for weeks. The idea is that the journal meets you where you are and not where you think that you need to be. I'm not standing over your shoulder like a teacher wanting you to finish your test. I truly want to say thank you. Um, Thank you to everyone who has already welcomed the Soul Story Journal into their homes, in their hearts, the therapy spaces, their backpacks, their tables next to their beds, their spirit. Thank you for trusting me um, to deliver this work and to share my insights. I am truly a therapist and a person who believes that your stories absolutely matter. We always have the choice to change our narrative. So we've been taught a narrative about ourselves, and maybe that's not true anymore. And maybe it's time to reintroduce yourself. My name is Hove. I don't know. I believe that your pace matters and the time that you spend quietly with yourself to have those moments, those things count. Um, if you're listening to this between now and February 6th, it is very close to the book signing because the book signing is February 7th. And if you listen to this after February 7th, then I wish you were there. I hope that you were. Um, but I would love to see you there if you're local or if you can drive and it's not too far. I would love to see you there, not as an audience, but as a collective, as a community. Um, the book signing is on Saturday, February 7th. It's at 2 o'clock. Um, and there will be some sharing on my end, maybe some sharing from y'all. I'm signing books. There is a little special pack that if you want with the book, and then you can just get the book by itself. Um, so yeah, the book is still available on the website. I'm just having it there for now. So you're more than welcome to get the book there, and I will have the link in my show's notes. And yeah, the pre-orders have already gone out and people have been receiving them. So if you received yours and you want to share, you're more than welcome to reach out to me because I would love to hear your thoughts about it. Um, yeah, so I'll end now, but I'll end with this is that you are not behind in your healing and you are not a broken human being because you're still in pain and it still hurts. And you are not failing because you don't have clarity yet. Your story is still unfolding and it deserves so much gentleness. May you write what feels genuine and true for you. My hope is that you rest when the words don't come, and that's okay to just step away. And I really pray that your soul feels less alone in the telling. So, village, take care of yourself, and I will see y'all soon, and I will talk to y'all soon. Okay, love y'all. Bye.